Hi, Nan.
I think yeah.
Okay, let's go up and find the. Potato. Okay. Okay, Nan, you're going to read now first, okay?
Artist Susan Sophia is best known for her flower paintings, and the large garden that surrounds her house is the source of many of her subjects. It is full of it is full of her favorite flowers, most especially varieties of tulips and poppies. Some of plants are unruly and seed themselves all over the garden. There is a harmony of color, shape, and structure into long flowers border that line the paved path which cross the garden from east to west. Much of this is due to the previous owner, who were keen gardeners and who left plants that appeared to Susan. She also inherited the gardener Danny. In fact, it was really his garden, she says. We got on very well. At first, he would say, "Oh, it's not worth it," to some of things I wanted to put in, but when I said I wanted to paint them, he recognized what I had in mind. Susan preferred to focus on
Prefers.
details.
Prefers.
Prefers to focus on details studies of individual plants rather than on the garden as as a whole. Thus, they will occasionally paint a group of plants where they are. More usually, she picks them and takes them to the studio. I don't set the whole things at once, she says. I take one flower out and plant it, which might be a few days, and then I bring in another one and build up the painting that way. Sometimes it takes a couple of years to finish. Her passionate time of year is spring and early summer, when the tulips are out, followed by the poppies are hopeless. They all come out together and you so busy, she said. But the gradual decaying process is also part of fascination of her.
With tulips.
Uh, with tulips, for example, you bring them in or put them in water, then leave them for perhaps a day, and they form themselves into different shapes. They open out and are fantastic. When you first put them in a vase, you think they are boring, but they change all the time with twists and turns. Susan has always been interested in plants. I did botany at school and used to collect wildflowers from all around the countryside, she said. I wasn't particu- particularly interested in gardening then. In fact, I didn't like garden flowers. I thought they looked like the ones made of silk or plastic. That's why show in some florist shop. To me, the one real ones were white. I was intrigued by the way they managed to flower in really a work, a workplace, like cracks in rocks or on cliff tops. Nowadays, the garden wants mark two plants that ori- originate in far off lands. Should they seem as much at home in her garden as they did in China or the Himalayas. She has a come what may attitude to the garden, rather like an affectionate aunt who is quite happy for children to run about undisciplined as long as they don't do anything serious damage. With two forthcoming exhibitions to prepare for, and a ready supply of subject material at the at her back door. Finding time to work in the garden has been difficult recently. She now employs an extra gardener, but despite the need to paint, she knows that to maintain her connection with her subject matter, you have to get your hands dirty.
Okay, let's see if I can get it next to each other. Okay. In the first paragraph, the writer describes Susan's garden as I'll make it bigger. Artist Susan Shepherd is best known for her flower paintings. And the large garden that surrounds her house is the source of many of her subjects. It is full of her favorite flowers, most especially varieties of tulips and poppies. Some of the plants are unruly and seeds themselves all over the garden. There is a harmony of color, shape, and structure in the two long flower borders that line the paved path which crosses the garden from east to west. In the first, the writer describes Susan's garden. Can you describe Susan's garden? Let's read A, B, and C, and D.
Thing is A.
Why? Having caused problems for the previous owners. Did she cause problems for the previous owners?
I can see it in the line in the line 11.
Okay, you can read it to me. Where does it say that she's causing problems? She caused problems to the previous owners.
Mark, this is okay.
I can't hear you. Say again.
Map of this is due to the previous owner who were keen gardeners and who left plants that appealed to Susan.
Okay, so what did you just read? Do you understand what you are reading? Much of this is due to the previous owners who were keen gardeners too. So she got the garden from the previous owners. What does it say here? Here it says, have caused problems. He describes Susan's garden as having caused problems for the previous owners. Did she cause problems? What are problems? Do you understand the word problems?
Yes.
Did she cause problems?
No.
No, that's not A. She didn't cause problems.
It is C, teacher.
Okay, needing a lot of work to keep it looking attractive. Where did you read that? Where does it say it keeps it's a lot of work? Where does it say it's a lot of work to keep it? In the first paragraph, what does he say about her garden?
I can see if the answer is B. In there is a hammer of colors is stuck into long flower border.
No, I can't hear you. Say again.
Uh, the answer is D. In there is a harmony of color, safe and structure in the two long flowers border that line the paved across garden from east to west.
Okay, what's your answer?
B.
Yes, it is B. Good. Number 2. What does this in line 12 refer to? Okay. And what does now read line 12? Line 12, here is line 12 here. Much of this is due to the impressive owners. There is a harmony of color, shape, and structure in the long flower borders that line the paths from east to west. Most of this is due to the previous owners who were keen gardeners.
I think is A.
The position of the path. Hmm. Let's see. Artist Susan Shetterby is best known for her flowers paintings and the large garden that surrounds her house and the source of many of her subjects. Okay. She also inherited the garden. In fact, it was really his garden, she says. We got on very well. At first, he would say, "Oh, it's not worth it to some of the things I wanted to put in." But when I said I wanted to paint them, he recognized what I had in mind. Being only partly finished. In the first paragraph, the writer does her garden being only partly finished. Just want to see why. Um, Artist Susan Shepherd is best known for her flower paintings, and the large garden that surrounds her house is the source of many of her subjects. It is full of her favorite flowers, most especially varieties of tulips and poppies. Some of the plants are unruly and seed themselves all over the garden. There is a harmony of color, shape, and structure in the two long flower borders that line the path, which crosses the garden from east to west. Most of this is due to the previous owners who were keen gardeners and who left plants that appealed to Susan. She also inherited the gardener, Danny. In fact, it was really his garden. She says, "We got on very well. At first, he would say, 'Oh, it's not worth it,' to some of the things I wanted to put in. But then I said I wanted to paint them. You knows what I had in mind. Okay, so she wanted to put in. So her garden is partly finished because she still wants to put in things. So it's partly finished. Okay, 2A. What would so it's 2A, the position of the path, because it's from left to right. East to west, sorry. Okay, 3. What does Susan say about Danny? Number 3. I can't hear you. What does Susan say about Danny?
Is D.
Okay, read it.
Maybe it is
Read your answer.
he was slow to see the point of some her idea.
He wasn't slow. He immediately understood after she told him what she wanted to do. Here. He recognized what I had in mind. He understood what she had in mind. What is Susan's approach to painting? I'll go up for you. Susan prefers to focus on detailed studies of individual plants rather than on the garden as a whole. Though she will occasionally paint a group of plants where they are, more usually she picks them and then takes them up to her studio. I don't set the whole thing up at once, she says. I take one flower out and paint it, which might take a few days. And then I bring in another one and build up the painting that way. Sometimes it takes a couple of years to finish. What is Susan's approach towards painting?
She created her paintings in several stages.
I can't hear. Oh,
Uh,
several stages. She creates her painting in several stages. Um, it could be, but I think she will wait until the flower is ready before she picks it. Sometimes it takes years. I take one flower out, then I bring another one in and build it up that way. She waits until it's ready to be picked. Susan thinks that tulips. What does she think about tulips? You bring them in and put them in water, then leave them for perhaps a day, and they each form themselves into different shapes. They open out and are fantastic. When you first put them in a vase, you think they are boring, but they change all the time with twists and turns.
This is I.
They are more colorful. Where does it say it's more colorful than other flowers?
Uh, I see it is then leave them for perhaps a day and they eat from themselves to different shapes.
But read your A. You're saying they are more colorful. Where does it say that they are more colorful than other flowers? What does Susan think about tulips? You're saying it's more colorful. I don't see that. Where do you see that Susan is saying that tulips are more colorful?
Uh, I think the correct one is B.
Looks best sometime after it's cut. You leave them for perhaps a day. You leave them, she said. It looks best sometime after they've been cut. Okay, number 6. Why did Susan enjoy studying wildflowers at school? Susan has always been interested in plants. I did botany at school and used to collect wildflowers from all around the countryside, she says. I wasn't particularly interested in gardening then. In fact, I didn't like garden flowers. I thought they looked like the ones made of silk or plastic that were sold in some florists' shops. To me, the only real ones were wild. I was intrigued by the way they managed to flower in really awkward places.
I think is A.
Yes, it's A because she says where they grow in rocks and cracks and in rocks here or on cliffs. How does the writer describe Susan's attitude to her garden? She has a come what may attitude to the garden. Rather like an affectionate aunt who is quite happy for children to run about. Undisciplined as long as they don't do any serious damage. Number 7. I can't hear you.
It is,
I can't hear.
I think it's B.
No, I can't hear. You need to read it. Read your answer to me. Nang, read
I,
your
I,
answer.
I think it's B.
Read your answer. Read it.
She disliked Christine's of her painting method.
Why? Why D?
Because because she has a somewhat made in the garden.
Okay, number 8. What point is Susan making in the final paragraph? What point is she making? Number 8. With 2 forthcoming exhibitions to prepare for and a ready supply of subject material at her back door, finding time to work in the garden has been difficult recently. She now employs an extra gardener, but despite the need to paint, she knows that to maintain her connection with her subject matter, you have to get your hands dirty.
Answer is my answer is D.
Read your answer.
It's hard to do exhibition if there are not enough plants ready in the garden.
No, it is B. It's important not to leave the gardening entirely to other people. You have to get your hands dirty, she says. You can't leave your garden to other people. You have to get your hands dirty. Okay. Let's sit out like this. Okay. Okay, let's read here.
In our fast growth of phones, emails, and computers, the old-fashioned art of letter writing is at risk of disappearing altogether. That, to me, there is something about receiving a letter that cannot be matched by any other form of communication. There is the excitement of its arrival, the pleasure of seeing who it is from, and finally the enjoyment of content. Letter writing has been part of my life for as long as I can remember. It probably began with a little note I would write my mother. My mother also always insisted, insisted I write my own thank you letters for Christmas and birthday presents.
Okay, now you have to look for answers here. Most of the letters from home contain just everyday events concerning my parents and their friends. We had been corresponding for 29 years but had never met. It didn't matter how short or untidy they were as long as they were letters. Notes are appreciated, but how much better to have a year's supply of news. Poor handwriting can spoil your enjoyment of a letter, but instead of harming the relationships, Letter writing seemed to improve them. She and my son have pen friends of their own in Texas, organized by my pen friend. More important, if she hadn't replied, we would be the poorer for it. Okay, my mother also always insisted I write my own thank you letters for Christmas and birthday presents. What's number 9?
Is I. I think the answer is D.
The answer is C. It didn't matter how short or untidy they were, as long as they were letters. Here, C, there, C. As long as they were letters. Okay, next one. When I left home,
When I left home at uh, 18 to train as a doctor in London, I would rise and awake and show would my mother. Occasionally, my father would write, and it was always a joy to receive his long, amusing letter. Of course, we also made phone calls, but this is the letter I remember most.
so you're talking about receiving letters from his dad. Oh, let me go up for you. When I left home at 18 to train as a doctor in London, I would write once a week, and so would my mother. Occasionally, my father would write, and it was always a joy to receive his long, amusing letters.
This is A.
Yes, A, good job. Number 11. These were also letters. Read there, read that paragraph.
There were also letters from my boyfriends. In my doors, I seem to attract people who have to work or study always. always at some time, and I was only able to stay in touch by correspondence. I found that I could often express myself more easily in writing than by talking.
There were also letters from my boyfriend. In my youth, I seemed to attract people able to stay in touch by correspondence. By correspondence.
It G,
I can't hear. You need to read it.
C, it's G. C and my son have been friends.
No, that's not what she's talking about. She's saying there were also letters from my boyfriend. In my youth, I seemed to attract people who had to work or study away at some time, and I was only able to stay in touch by correspondence. I found that I could often express myself more easily by writing. She's not talking about pen friends now. She's talking about her boyfriend.
E,
Okay, I would say, but instead of harming the relationships, letter writing seemed to improve them. I found that I could often express myself more easily through writing. Okay, we're gonna stop here and we'll continue here next time, okay? You tried well. Well done, Nan. I'll see you next
good,
time. Bye,
goodbye,
sweetie.
teacher.
Bye,